The state of the Warriors. Where are they going this offseason? We talking retool or a rebuild? Plus, Buddy Hield. How good will he be in a Dubs uniform? That more coming up right now on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen of every day. We are free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts, also streaming on YouTube. Locked On Warriors is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Charlie Walter, former KPIX sports anchor and 95.7 The Game host. Cover the Warriors for a few seasons where I saw them win the championship in 2021, 2022. And the man that was making the magic happen behind the scenes was executive sports producer at KPIX, Brian Day. You may not know the name, but you know the work. He's the one that cuts the highlights together, that listens to the sound every single day. In short, considering he's been at the station since 2008, he knows the Warriors better than just about anyone. He also is a rare Indiana Pacers fan in the Bay Area, meaning he has some insights on Buddy Hield as well. Also, he played at SF State for basketball, so he's a qualified basketball analyst. Yeah. So everything comes together for Brian Day to be a great guest on the show today. Welcome, my man. How are we?
Long time? I'm good, Chuck. Thanks for having me. That's the longest I think anyone's ever introduced me.
You deserve it, man. You deserve it. You spent a long time in downtown San Francisco. But let's start with this, Brian, because you saw 3 20-win teams out of the gate when you started there in 2008. You saw the Warriors pretty much at an all-time low as a franchise and then slowly rise back to the top. I wanted to address kind of the state of the Warriors, where they stand right now, in your humble mind. Are they retooling or are they rebuilding?
Oh, I stepped on your question. That's a big no-no. The current version, I mean, as long as they have number 30, I always tell people, as long as they have number 30, they're still in contention. I know everyone's writing them off because the current group still kind of work in progress. As long as they have Curry, they got a shot. As you would say, if you're in the dance, you got a chance.
To make a little March magic, or in this case, all the way to June, hopefully moving forward. But yeah, some Curry flurries. We love that. So with that being said, some of the young players on this team, they're expected to step up. Brandon Podziemski, Trace Jackson-Davis, Jonathan Kuminga, obviously the huge one that is going to have to take a leap to be that number 2. If the Dubs really want to have a chance to make a push in the playoffs, you can't rely on Steph and a bunch of role players. You need that number 2. You need the Robin to the Batman. Do you believe that the Warriors potentially have this in the system right now? Could it be Jonathan Kuminga, or is there still a lot of work to do this offseason?
Well, obviously they're banking on Kuminga to be that number 2, as they've been reluctant to kind of include him in any trade offers that we've seen reported. It kind of all comes down to Kuminga. We've seen the flashes. We've seen him clash with Kerr over minutes and role and playing time, and Kerr seems frustrated at his inability to play the 3, which obviously if he could play the 3, that changes the whole equation of this roster, because then they can do different things in the front court, maintain their defensive capabilities in there with Looney backing up Trace, with slow-mo, Kyle Anderson. We'll get to him in a little bit. One of my favorites. But it's big. Kuminga's he's got to take the step this year, because as we hit off the top, they got Curry, but how much longer do they have Curry?
That's the question. They have him for a couple more years at least, as Steve Kerr pretty much confirmed yesterday. Hey, if Steph Curry wants to retire as a Golden State Warrior, he's not on the trade block ever. Like, we are riding Steph Curry until the wheels fall off, and rightfully so. But he's got an interesting nucleus around him, because Andrew Wiggins is not going to be that number 2, although we did see it in the NBA championship against the Celtics. He was clearly the second best player on the floor. I don't think, though, you can expect that consistently throughout an entire season. Maybe defensively, he's your point of attack, lockdown defender, but they do need Kuminga to step up, or they're going to have to go out and get a big fish, i.e. potentially Lauri Markkanen, which we'll have more on in just a bit. But between like Podziemski and Moses Moody and other players that aren't Jonathan Kuminga, is there anyone there that maybe is that diamond in the rough to you, where maybe they're not the number 2 scorer, but they turn out to to be an all-star moving forward and we're overlooking them a bit? Or are they just role players in your mind?
Very, very short answer. I'd say no. I would say Kuminga's probably the only one with the all-star to use the all-star as the measuring stick. It's probably Kuminga, and that's probably it. But I think they've upgraded the roster. I think right now this team is better than what they ended with in Sacramento during the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I found it interesting that they don't have any vet minimum guys right now. I'm going through the roster, and I'm pretty sure it's all mid-level players. It's as simple as they're cutting payroll this offseason, right? This offseason was about figuring things out second. First priority was getting below the second apron, and from there, doing some damage. And they've done damage in regards to adding in a point of attack defender and DeAnthony Melton, adding in an elite shooter to replace Klay Thompson and Buddy Hield. Lastly, Kyle Anderson slow-mo. We may as well go slow-mo right here as we're kind of talking about the state of the Warriors, because you had some thoughts on what Kyle Anderson brings to the table. What does he add that the Warriors have not had in recent years?
I think he gives them another versatile big that they can pair with Draymond while Draymond plays the 5. They've kind of struggled to find that right 4-man to play next to Draymond when they go small, right? We've seen Kuminga do it. Kuminga's still kind of work in progress on defense. Anderson can do that and let Draymond shine where he's at his best on the defensive end. And he gives you a little bit on offense. He moves the ball, a little slower. There might be some times where Steph's like, hey, man, let's speed this along. But he'll fit the offense. He can move the ball. He's a good passer. I just think he's an upgrade over the Saric role, which kind of really fizzled after a decent start last year and kind of played his way out of the rotation.
Yeah, I think it's when you look at the Warriors team that won the championship a couple of years ago, it was a perfect mix of bringing in players into the system that you weren't high on before the season. I don't think anyone thought that the Warriors were going to win the NBA championship before that season started, or really when they were 18-2, but it was kind of a perfect storm. Jordan Poole takes that step. Maybe, Brandon is the one that takes that Jordan Poole-like step this year and puts on a clinic. I would think it would be more as a facilitator based on what I've seen this summer and most of last year, as compared to being a true natural number 2 scorer. But you had Otto Porter, Bielitsa came in and played a really nice role that season. Gary Payton, it was just like, and then Loon, Iron Man, didn't miss a game and he had one of his best seasons. So it was the perfect storm of everything coming together and surrounding Steph Curry. And you wonder if Dunleavy and company are kind of doing that behind the scenes this season. It's all right, let's not go out and get the big fish. We'll flirt with it potentially if we can get the right deal in return, but we realize we don't have a ton of leverage, so we may have to ride with what we got. Is that kind of how you're thinking that maybe they're going about this offseason?
Yeah, it seems like if the Lauri thing happens, it happens. If it doesn't, they've kind of put out the stance that we're better than last year. We lost a lot of close games last year, still won 46, finished 3 games out of the 6th seed. We get a full season out of Steph. Draymond doesn't miss 25-plus games. We're getting into the top 6. Now, obviously, other teams in the West are also improving. We saw the Kings get DeRozan. We know the Spurs are going to be better with Wemby another year. Houston's on the rise. Memphis gets Morant back. So the West is loaded. They're going to need some things to break their way. But, yeah.
Houston's on the rise. The Rocket is getting ready to take off.
The Rocket is pointing upward. But yeah, I think I've just talked them back into like 12th place with all the teams I just named. But if everything goes their way, like you said, 2022, even Draymond didn't think they were gonna go all the way that year. I heard him the other day saying he was making vacation plans for that summer, and it was, oh, wait a minute, we're still alive. So, if they got 30, they got a chance.
Yeah, vacation plans are going to be rolling down the streets of downtown San Francisco on a float.
That's
with
right.
Some Hennessy. That's what he was doing. Getting into this more, is the big move coming up? Lauri Markkanen. Could it happen? I'm also putting Brian Day in a tough position. He gets the GM role. What would he do if he had the keys to the kingdom? Maybe the takes are so good that Mike Dunleavy is watching and is ready to take some notes. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is available to U.S. customers only. All right, so are the big moves coming? That's the big question right now, because you look at the Warriors roster and it just seems incomplete. There's so many smaller guards. Like, I'm sitting here wondering what the heck's going to happen with Gary Payton. Andrew Wiggins has been reportedly on the block to where they're looking to ship him out. What could they potentially get in return? And as of right now, I'm really only hearing one big fish that the Warriors are tied to, and that is Utah Jazz 7-foot sharpshooter Lauri Markkanen. Here's the deal with Lauri Markkanen. Danny Ainge holds all the chips. He could fleece whoever he wants here. Lauri Markkanen's a really good basketball player. You put them onto a team that's right around the cusp of contending, and he could potentially be the piece that takes you over the top, or at least adds a ton of value scoring the basketball on your team. With that being said, I don't think the Jazz are in any hurry to give him up. He's extension eligible August 6th, so that's the date we're looking into.
Oh,
I think Danny Ainge is only going to make a move if he gets a deal that he feels he is fleecing someone else. It's what he did in Boston when he landed the picks that got him Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He's done it his entire career. That's what he does. He waits to be King Fleece. Would the Warriors be fleeced if they got rid of their picks, they got rid of Jonathan Kuminga, and went after Lauri Markkanen? Or could it be the rare scenario where both teams win a trade? And does that even happen?
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that meme of Ainge wearing the AirPods for the next few weeks. Everyone wondering what he was listening to. Yeah, we've seen him do it most recently in Utah with the Mitchell trade and with the Rudy Gobert trade, where they got all those picks from Minnesota, and everyone ripped Minnesota at the time. I mean, right now it seems like it's working out okay for the Wolves. They went to the conference finals. I know Gobert's kind of a divisive player with can he be on the floor in crunch time and all that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many picks he's going to squeeze out of the Warriors. And like you said, doesn't appear there are any other big fish out there. I know, Ingram, but Markkanen feels like a better fit than Ingram. Maybe you let New Orleans go a little bit longer and see if things go south with your boy Zion. I don't know at the deadline if something happens there. If Milwaukee goes up in flames again this year, maybe Giannis. I don't know. I don't know if you just keep waiting for the next star to ask out. Jimmy Butler would be another one. But I don't know how well he would fit here with Steph. And him and Draymond together would be a lot of fun to watch, though.
Yeah, I also think it's time to find like maybe the next cornerstone of the franchise, or at least the cornerstone that you can stick next to one of the draft picks that you have in the future that pans out to be your guy, because Steph Curry is aging, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Seems like Father Time can't get him, but we'll see.
I think if you're looking at it like that, I don't think Lauri Markkanen is that guy where once Steph's gone, it's come out and watch Lauri and the Warriors. I don't think he's that guy.
He's not that guy, but what he is one of the best chance, if not the only best chance, for the Dubs to win a championship right now.
Exactly. Yeah, no, he's a short-term move. You were saying they got to be mindful of the long-term succession plan. These things all change so fast in the NBA. I think you just go for it now and clean it up later.
So go for it now. So get rid of the picks, get rid of Kuminga to get Lauri Markkanen, or like, what is the cap? If you're playing the GM tag and you're dealing right now with Danny Ainge, knowing that he only is going to get rid of Lauri Markkanen if he feels he is winning this deal. He's not He's not going for a deal that's neutral, that's competitive for both sides. He is trying to win this deal, or else he's waiting until August 6th, and it's probably just going to re-sign him. That's kind of the reports we're hearing, is that the Jazz are leaning towards re-signing him, even though the Warriors already have a substantial offer on the table. Like, what would you do? How much would you give away?
That's a lot of Danny Ainge playing poker and using his pals in the media, I think, to try to maybe get the price up. What did Bridges go for? Five picks, like 4 picks in a swap, something like that. So I guess that's your starting point. If you think you're going to be good for a few more years, those picks shouldn't matter. Not to quote what was the Rams general manager? F them picks. I don't know if we work blue here on the Locked On pod, but
yeah, the tough part is if you do have a substantial downfall and you're giving away 26, 28 picks, you're pick swapping in 29, whatever, or 30, whatever it may be, and you are getting rid of some of these picks and a complete rebuild needs to happen, then you look at a position that like the Oklahoma City Thunder were in a few years back, where they had all these picks lined up, and that would be the Utah Jazz with the Dubs picks, and that's kind of what terrifies me. So I kind of am in agreement as well, where it's like with Andrew Wiggins, if you don't get good value for Wiggins and you can't place him in a 3-team, 4-team deal to where you get assets in return that are really going to help you out, I think you just eat the bad contract. You eat the bad contract. You hope that his low stock right now rises just a little bit to that median price, whatever it may be. And then you can ship him at the All-Star break if he is indeed not a part of the Warriors' future. So it does feel like the kick the can down the road method is the way to go long term. But the issue that we run into that's so nuanced is Steph Curry, generational. Every single Dubs fan wants to see him get 5. And the best chance you have to get 5 is to go out, and they already struck out with Paul George. In fact, they could have gotten Paul George. They just didn't want to get rid of Kuminga. That shows you how high they believe in Jonathan Kuminga. But it's that double-edged sword of like, all right, if we go all in right now, there's going to be a rebuild coming at some point. We're going to look like the San Antonio Spurs have in the last 7 years, to where maybe if we kick the can down the road, we get some of these assets a little bit higher as they play their way onto other teams' radars, then, you're still solid right now. You're maybe not a championship contender, but by mid-season, you start looking at some pieces that won out of other places, because it does change very quickly and you can retool that way. So I'm in a boggle right now. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And that's why I'm giving you the GM tag.
I think a good fan base to have this conversation with would be Bulls fans from the 90s. So, I mean, because you mentioned the Spurs, but I think the Bulls are a better study. Obviously, they won 6 with Michael. Michael leaves. They haven't been very relevant since. They had a nice run when Derrick Rose was there. If you're the Warriors, would you be worried about 20 years of maybe you win 1 playoff series, or would you to get Steph his 5th? Like, what's more important? Do you think Bulls fans would give back any of those titles to maybe beat Cleveland in a second-round series once under Tibbs or Tim Floyd?
If you ask a 2014 collegiate graduate or something like that, absolutely. Yeah. But I would say some of the old heads say no, that the 6 were amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we've been blessed with the greatest player of the last, how long has Steph been in the league? 15 years? He's right. Him and LeBron 1 and 1A. He's in this market. I just feel like look how the Bulls broke it up. They broke it up too early.
This show is sponsored by Betterhelp. In today's day and age, it's hard to get on the phone and immediately not compare your life to others. Comparison is the thief of joy, everyone. Remember that. Everyone's going through something in some way. Even if, you're scrolling through social media and you see a bunch of superstars, life's tough for them. It's tough for me. It's tough for Brian Day and everyone. And we're all in this together. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and flexible to your schedule. A brief questionnaire will match you with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, so Buddy Hield joins the Golden State Warriors on a really favorable contract. He's going to be here for the foreseeable future. Your overall thoughts as an Indiana Pacers fan who saw Hield light it up quite a bit? He can shoot, absolutely, but how much does he turn you from a solid team to a contender? Your answer is?
Well, before we hopped on and started this, I wrote down the Warriors, first and second units and went 10 deep. I did not have Buddy Hield's name on that list.
Whoa.
So I've got him. I mean, I don't think they can play him over Moses Moody. That we can't do another year of burying Moses Moody when he's shown he deserves to be in the rotation. I get it was one thing to do it for Clay, Captain Clay, 4 rings and all that. Buddy Hield doesn't have the back of that baseball card that Klay Thompson has. So if Moody's doing his thing, he gives you more on both ends of the floor. If they're trading Moody, then yeah, the Buddy signing makes sense. Just staying on Buddy here because that's what your graphic says. He had a very similar 2023-24 season as Clay. Turned down an extension before the year, had his starting role, lost his starting role, was unhappy with his new role, asked the Pacers, only, he moved up his exit to in-season by asking the Pacers to do right and trade him. They sent him to the Sixers, quickly fell out of that rotation. I think he had one nice moment in the series against the Knicks, but he's kind of the same player as what we saw from Clay last year if you take away everything they've both done prior to last season.
Okay, so he falls into the role that Klay Thompson was, I guess, asked to play this season, coming off the bench.
I think that's the role they wanted Klay to play going forward. So it's going to be less than what Klay was last year.
Okay, so Buddy steps into that role this upcoming season, and he's your sharpshooter while Melton's your defender.
And Melton's going to be good because Melton. I look at Melton as an upgrade over Paul because he's bigger. Last year they had a tough time when Steph and Paul were out there together. It's like, well, now Steph has to guard the bigger guard, and you don't want to make things harder on Steph on the defensive end.
Can Buddy play at the same time as Steph Curry, though? That's what I find fascinating about this whole thing because Jordan Poole played with Steph Curry quite a bit, and it worked. Yeah,
Buddy can. I mean, he played with Halliburton all the time. Halliburton's not a great defender. So, I mean, he is what he is on defense. He's Buddy Hield. There's no D. So you know that going in. You know there's going to be a bunch of breakdowns. You know Draymond's going to yell at him as they're walking to the bench for timeouts about a missed coverage. But then he'll have nights where he makes 6 or 7 threes, and Chase will be going crazy, and the Buddy vibes will be high. You really want to limit him on offense to just shooting.
Sharpshooter.
No dribbling. Dribbling. No dribbling.
And then Kyle Anderson, roll, slow-mo. Push the ball up the floor in the slowest possible way, but make great decisions where his brain's ahead of his feet 1,000%. He's very technical, a very high IQ player. And then you mix in DeAnthony Melton, athletic, long wingspan, tenacious, I should say.
The thing with Melton, and you kind of lump him in with Peyton, right? Long, good defender, but health is a question mark. Played 33 games last year. Peyton's been limited to 66 games the last 2 seasons. So keeping those 2 guys healthy, I mean, they need these role players around Steph. Steph doesn't need 4 other stars. He needs everyone to play their part. Did you watch any of Team USA last night?
I was actually watching I saw the highlights, but I was watching the entirety because Kylan and I did a post-game show for the California Classic. So I was dialed in to Pajemski and Kevin Knox.
So there was a couple moments where Steph was basically treating LeBron like a loon and like pushing him in to set screens for him. Like everything just needs to just revolve around Steph. Finding guys that can embrace those roles. Yes, they do need that second guy though. Because when you mentioned the 2022 season, it was Jordan Poole for half the year. And then when they got to the playoffs, I don't know what got into Wiggins, but we haven't seen that guy since the last game in Boston.
Yeah, and it's the question of, is that second player Lauri Markkanen, or do they already have it on the roster in Jonathan Kuminga? And that's why they didn't go after of Paul George and potentially won't throw Jonathan Kuminga into the mix for a Lauri Markkanen trade. Brian, have I told you about the Locked On launching the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube?
You have not, but as someone who produced for you for 2 years, I'm really enjoying watching you drive this ship.
It's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Brian Day from CBS Bay Area. Anything that you see sports related on the tube on KPIX, Brian Day has had a hand in it. Watches every single press conference. So let's finish with this. I got about 45 seconds for you, Day. Klay Thompson moving on to Dallas. Is Klay Thompson going to resurrect his career there? Does he have a lot left in the tank? And this comes down to Klay's fit in San Francisco was just kind of running out, or no?
I think he maybe more willingly takes the reduced role in Dallas. It's easier for him to be one of the guys there than be a lesser guy here. I know you're a gambling man. I don't know if you've shared this in the Locked On space, but the over-under for his shot attempts that first night back at Chase, yeah, I would smash the over.
Smash the over on FanDuel, everyone. Charlie Walter, Brian Day, the guest today on the Locked On Warriors. Subscribe to the show, YouTube, wherever you get your audio podcasts, and thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen of every single day. Brian, thanks for joining the program today. Excited to have you on in the future.
I thought we were going to break down the Pistons-Warriors preseason game that was announced today. We're not getting to that?
No, we're not going to get to that one.
Okay.
How about the California Classic champs, everyone? Mitch Richmond Trophy in the Bay Area. Have a good night, everyone. Good day, wherever and whenever you're listening. Take it easy.